It's pretty hard to wrap your head around. But in the span of just one person's lifetime, the American farm went through a revolution. We're talking a total, ground-up transformation, from back-breaking labor with animals to the dawn of the machine age. So let's dig in and see how this incredible 50-year journey happened.
Just look at this. On the left, you've got a farmer with his horse in 1900. On the right, a farmer on a modern tractor, just 50 years later. I mean, it's like looking at two completely different worlds. So the big question for us today is, how in the world did this massive leap forward happen so fast?
All right, so to really get a grip on this massive change, we've got to go back to the beginning. Let's talk about what life was like on the farm at the turn of the 20th century, back in the age of pure, raw horsepower.
40%. Think about that for a second. Nearly half the entire country lived on a farm. Farming wasn't just a job. It was the absolute backbone of American life, community, and culture.
And what did a day actually look like? Well, it was just relentless physical labor from sunup to sundown. Everything you see here, it was done by hand, or maybe with the help of an animal. Pumping water from a well, planting seeds one by one, plowing with a team of horses, it was a slow, difficult, and incredibly demanding way to live. And the economics of it were just brutal. The margins were razor thin. When a single cow cost you $25, but a whole bushel of wheat only brought in 62 cents, your life was pretty precarious. Every single seed, every drop of rain, it all counted.
Okay, so now we get to the part where everything starts to speed up and get a whole lot more complicated. The 1920s brought this incredible promise of machines, but that promise was followed real quick by the peril of total economic and environmental collapse.
And here it is, the big catalyst for change, the tractor. For the first time, a machine promised to do the work of a whole team of horses, but way faster. This thing was a game changer. It literally promised to turn days of grueling fieldwork into just a few hours. And this wasn't some kind of far-off dream either. A Fordson tractor, which was one of the most popular models, cost about $395. Now that was a huge investment, kind of like buying a new car today. But for a lot of farmers, it seemed like a price worth paying for a ticket into the future. So this raises a huge question, right? Farmers were investing in all this new technology, they were taking on debt, and they were producing more food than ever before. But what happens when that incredible new productivity runs headfirst into a national economic disaster? Well, the Great Depression hit farmers like a tidal wave. Just look at these numbers. Wheat prices collapsed by over 60%. Corn prices got cut in half, so you've got farmers producing more than ever but getting paid less than ever. It was an absolute recipe for ruin. And just when it seemed like things couldn't possibly get any worse, nature itself turned against them. The Dust Bowl hit the Midwest. This was an ecological catastrophe that literally blew the topsoil away. So you had this double disaster, an economic bust combined with an environmental one. Thousands and thousands of farmers lost everything. For a solid decade, it really seemed like the American farm was broken beyond repair. But then, an event on the other side of the world changed everything. A global war became this unlikely engine of recovery, and it completely remade the agricultural landscape. And the reason? Well, it all boiled down to one thing: demand. You had to feed millions of soldiers, and you had to feed allied populations all across the globe. This created a massive, urgent need for food. The American farmer went from being forgotten to being an absolutely essential part of the war effort, seemingly overnight. The price of wheat tells the whole story. It went from a devastating low of 38 cents during the Depression to over $1.30 just 10 years later. This wasn't just a recovery, it was a boom. Suddenly, farming was profitable again. And that was it. This wartime demand basically sealed the deal for the mechanical revolution. With money finally coming in and a desperate need for efficiency, tractors were mass-produced. They became the standard, not the exception. The era of the horse? It was officially over. So by 1950, after a half-century of incredible booms, devastating busts, and a world war, the American farm was completely and utterly transformed. And here was the new recipe for success. It wasn't just about tractors anymore. It was this whole system of new technologies working together. Powerful hybrid seeds, potent chemical fertilizers, and electric irrigation systems that could bring water to bone-dry fields. It was a complete package for high-yield agriculture.
And this is the real legacy of that whole 50-year period. The result of all this technology was a truly staggering increase in productivity. For the first time in human history, the labor of a single farmer could produce enough food to feed way more than their own family. They could feed an entire community.
So in just 50 years, technology dragged the American farm from the 19th century kicking and screaming into the modern age. It was a journey of unbelievable hardship and incredible innovation. And it leaves us with one last thought. If technology did all of this in 50 years, what on earth will the next 50 years of technology create on the farm?